Let's make history. So this area of Bed Stuy used to be known as Cripplebush. Now it's referred to as the Hart/Willoughby district. And they fought for some time to gain historic district status, and it was just granted that. And I found out about it, and I wanted to come down. I was in the area, and I wanted to just come down and show you the architecture, which is the primary reason why they granted this area historic district status. In the mid to late 1800s, when immigration really beefed up in Manhattan. This is before, by the way, New York City was consolidated into the 5 boroughs. First, it was the German immigrants who came through. Then it was the Jewish immigrants who came through by the time the 20th century rolled around. And they needed to house these new Americans, these new New Yorkers. They needed to house these new Brooklynites. And so they built these blocks and blocks of row houses, Romanesque revival architecture, neo-Greek architecture. And as time went on, after the Jewish people, it was Italians, and it was black people. In the mid 20th century to this day, it's still a black neighborhood, one of the primary black historic neighborhoods in New York City. But this section here was known as Cripplebush, and it was a Cripplebush Road. It starts off, I'm in the area right now where Marcy Projects is, the area, the subsection, or the small village of Cripplebush went from here where I'm at, basically Willoughby, over by Myrtle and Nostrand, and went all the way over to Flushing and Nostrand. And that was the village of Cripplebush, which then, when Bed Stuy became a town of its own, Cripplebush then became a subsection within partially Bed Stuy and partially the Wallabout, which is over by Brooklyn Navy Yard. So it stretches from Brooklyn Navy Yard all the way over to Willoughby and Hart, which is basically the area of Marcy Projects and the surrounding neighborhood. And this is what some of it looks like. And this is that real distinctive look, that Bed Stuy, like Brooklyn distinctive look. And they left these intact because when they were building Marcy Projects and other buildings and structures in the surrounding area, luckily this section, the Cripplebush section, was able to keep some of that architecture from back then. There are other blocks that still have this, but this particular section was able to be preserved more than anything else, more than anywhere else, pardon me. And it's a shame because you don't see this much detail on buildings anymore. Look at the stairway, how ornate the banisters are. You got that rust color. Check out the Greek, the frieze, which is that section above the door. Look at the designs on that. Check out the columns that flank the windows and the trimming on the roof. You know, sometimes I say the devil's in the details, and there's a perfect example of that. These small things just give these buildings so much character. These here are on Nostrand between Hart and Willoughby, and as you can see, there's a perfect example. You see the brownstone in the middle, that retained its character, but this one here has been developed into something modern. Look at the lack of ornament on here. Look at the lack of detail on it. Just basically a big brown stone. And these were done over, and they put that cheap paneling on top. Again, look at the lack of detail as we move into the future. And here, this one, they made an attempt to leave it intact. You still have the Greek trimming along the roof there. And somewhat in the doorway, but they modernized that as well. And you can see the difference, how beautiful this one in the middle is. And And I'm over here by the Home Depot. If you're familiar with the area, we're going towards Hart Street. Usually, once the area gets historic district status, they give them new street signs in brown. Because the street signs in New York City are green. They used to be yellow back in like the 70s, but they're green. So when it's historic district status, they change them brown. They probably just haven't changed these yet because it was just granted that status just recently. And this is an example of gentrification. Most of the people who live in these brownstones, many are not even from the neighborhood. Some of them have been converted into apartments. Some of them have been converted into rooming houses. But they're expensive. The average person who originally came from this neighborhood probably couldn't afford to live in any of these. Most of the people who grew up here, they either live in NYCHA, which is the projects, New York City Housing Authority, and Marcy. And there are also other buildings that NYCHA owns throughout the area, and other buildings with subsidized rent. Those are the more modern style buildings, which were cheap to make.
Chris Newton here, Chris Newton Real Estate. I'm here on Hart Street. As of June 25th, 2024, the committee has unanimously decided to make Hart Street in Willoughby landmark. Yes, so the landmarking went through for Hart Street in Willoughby. So what does that mean? For the blocks this way, the blocks on this side of the street going down and you make a left and you're on Willoughby, those will be landmarks. So developers cannot come tear down the properties, developers cannot come, or investors, flippers cannot come and redo the facades or build extensions. They cannot do that. Whatever they want to do in the inside of the property, they definitely can. Right now, they cannot touch anything on the outside. This protects the beautiful historic properties that we have on Hart Street and in Willoughby.
A follow-up tonight as a neighborhood takes action to preserve its history. 2 years ago, we showed you how people in Bed Stuy, Brooklyn were devastated to see a historic mansion demolished. Well, now they're trying to landmark the buildings that remain.
And today was the big vote. CBS 2's Hannah Klieger covers Brooklyn and reports that it was a controversial decision.
There's a new historic district in the city, located in the 2-block radius of Willoughby Avenue and Hart Street between Nostrand and Marcy Avenues. By unanimous vote, the Landmarks Preservation Commission designated the rows of 19th century brownstones.
Well, today was an overwhelming success. I didn't think I'd be so emotional.
It's an effort that's been championed by longtime residents, including Joanne Joyner-Wells.
Our work was to do something for the community and for those homeowners, especially our senior homeowners, which I am now, who have worked very hard to preserve their homes.
We told you about their push to landmark last spring. It was an effort launched from heartbreak over the hasty demolition of the Jacob Dangler mansion in 2022.
Unfortunately, due to a paperwork error, the developer was able to demolish it in a day. As a result, we first were concerned about what would happen to the rest of the block.
Molly Salas had taken the lead with research and outreach, but today's decision is controversial among other residents, many of whom are members of the Orthodox Jewish community. An attorney representing these homeowners declined an interview but sent a statement he shared with LPC. It reads in part, the Orthodox Jewish community, decades-long residents of the area, merely wish to live in their homes and, where necessary, expand them consistent with the applicable zoning to fit the needs of their families. The proposed districting will all but guarantee that the permits required to undertake such work will be, if not outright rejected, made subject to undue scrutiny, delay, and unnecessary expense.
Not only do other city agencies do the regulation on things like rear extensions and modifications, but Landmarks also allows those things. And so I think it's kind of a moot argument.
In Bed Stuy, Brooklyn, Hannah Klieger, CBS 2 News.
And now we're over by Marcy. This is the Myrtle Ave section of Marcy. Jay-Z is actually from the Flushing Ave side, which is about 1 or 2 blocks over. 2 blocks over, yeah. You got Park Ave, and then Flushing. Right now I'm on Myrtle. This is by the basketball courts. You got the handball courts. This is the Myrtle Ave side of Marcy. You got the basketball courts over there. And this was that old neighborhood of Cripplebush. Have a look at my video, The History of Bed Stuy. That's part 1. Also, have a look at the history of Marcy projects. I'll leave a link in the description. If you're watching this on Instagram or TikTok, you're gonna have to go over to YouTube. They're on all platforms, but you can access them easier through YouTube. Just go to the playlist. If you go to my YouTube page, go to the playlist, you'll see the history of Queens, the history of Manhattan, the history of the Bronx, and then the history of Brooklyn, where this will be at. And you can also, while you're there, have a look at the history of Bed-Stuy, part 1, and the history of Marcy projects. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to WillFloresTV on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and X.